about President Trump and his chief strategist, Steve Bannon, back with me now, my panel. So, Brian, candidate Trump's public feud with Megyn Kelly was on full display during the campaign, especially the Fox debate where Kelly pressed him about his treatment of women. Green writes that Bannon called her pure evil. What more do we learn about that?
Pure evil. Now, this would partly explain why Breitbart is very frequently very critical of Megyn Kelly. Even as recently as this week, the site still publishes stories about her ratings. Never skips an opportunity to criticize Megyn Kelly. So it speaks to Bannon and his seeking media targets. You know, this president's his anti-media attacks. Megyn Kelly was sort of an early preview of what this presidency was going to be like with these attacks against the media. And so I think this book has fresh insight into how Bannon thinks about the press. He wants these fights. Trump doesn't have much else right now to celebrate except for his attacks on the media.
But it also shows you that Steve Bannon is more interested in attacking figures that would be considered center-right than the left. You know, there's nothing bad about Nancy Pelosi, and maybe there is, but it's not making the news. But attacks on Paul Ryan, attacks on Megyn Kelly, that's what Steve Bannon likes. So I think that's one of the big things that Breitbart has done, is this internecine struggle between the Paul Ryans of the world and the Donald Trumps of the world.
And what did we see today from Trump's fundraising committee? A Fight the Fake Media bumper sticker. Donate $1, we'll give you a fake media, fake news bumper sticker.
But they're also going
it's ridiculous, but it's also outrageous. These daily attacks, and this is straight from Bannon.
They're also going after Jeff Flake, a sort of Paul Ryan-ish Republican senator. So it's the media, it's the center-right. It's not really the left that much.
It reminds me of my dad. When I hear him say fake media, fake news, it's like when the guy goes, and then he said, bazanga, and you're like, Dad, you've said that like 14 times. Like, every time I come home, you tell me the same story, and it just gets old after a while.
Gets old?
Who cares? I don't care. We shouldn't care. Go on. Who's that, Kurt?
You know, one of the interesting things, I think, though, is it reveals that there's a certain amount of pettiness that really drives both Steve Bannon and Donald Trump, and that they are so consumed and obsessed with demeaning and beating down anyone that they feel like has slighted them at some point in life. And it's interesting that they crave and want the acceptance so much of the mainstream press. They want the adoration from all these people that have shunned them. You know, Bannon was at a point where Breitbart was a laughingstock. No one took them seriously. And it almost serves to motivate them even more to keep doing this, because they feel so slighted that they are obsessed with trying to get everyone else to come around to the idea that they've been right all along and praise them. I've never seen people who want to get the acceptance and praise from the people they spend every minute of every day attacking.
Well, that's what people in the middle of the country may not understand, or people who are not in New York City or not in a media center, or people who don't know Donald Trump, is that he craves media attention. That's part of the reason he's so upset with CNN, is because he thinks CNN should, you know, do all positive stories on him. He sees CNN as an institution like Coca-Cola, like Xerox, and so for him, and like he loves stars, he wants to be a part of that, and so someone who doesn't just shower love on him, he gets upset. But Kurt, that's a really good way of putting it. I'm glad you said that, petty, because it really is petty, and I think it's beneath the dignity of the office. Bannon came to the White House wielding enormous influence over the president, but he found himself on the outs after he appeared on the cover of Time magazine, being touted as the master manipulator. And here's what Green says about that.
Bannon had a lot of influence. I don't think he was ever the puppet master that he was portrayed as being. What he really was Trump's ideologue and his pit bull. But I do think he reveled a little bit in that portrayal, and it enraged Trump, obviously, because eventually it cost Bannon his seat on the National Security Council. He got kind of put in the doghouse and didn't really get let out until about a month ago.
And that was because of the public perception?
Everybody I talk, that Trump does not want to have anyone co-starring alongside him in his presidency, particularly not somebody who is seen as pulling Trump's puppet string.
Tara, that was probably the best way of putting it, co-starring, right? Since he came to prominence as in a big part because he's a reality TV star. But Bannon was rumored to be getting fired. He's still there, but I mean, is he as powerful as he used to be?
He's really kept a lower profile since this happened. He actually has someone from outside of the administration who helps manage inquiries about him. There's obviously a lot of interest in him as a person, and he has a following. But her role as a publicist for him is basically to keep him out of the press, because being in the press does not serve him in any way. Any sort of spotlight does not help him with his agenda. One criticism I do hear from his colleagues, a lot of them say that he is the person who in his office has a whiteboard with all of the campaign promises, and he wants to go through all of them and cross them out. And he's the one who's really keeping Trump on track. But one criticism I've heard about him is that he gets distracted very easily. And while he has great ideas, he's not an executor in the same way that Gary Cohn is, or Dina Powell, or some of the other aides. And because of that, he's often losing some of these battles over the way that the policy should be moving forward. So, he has a big team underneath him. He has 5 people. He has 2 deputy assistants. He has a body man. He has 2 other assistants, and then an outside publicist. He has 5 people underneath him. He's got a war room, and so he's really trying to make sure his policies, he makes a real impact, but he doesn't want the press.
Brian, what can you tell us? I understand you've learned about the next People magazine cover. We're
talking about the Time magazine cover of Bannon. Here's the new People cover that comes out tomorrow. We had an early look at it, and I think it's notable. This is People magazine. This is, Heartland magazine, Celebrity magazine, and the banner that says Trump family secrets and lies. So it's another example of, I think, the torrent of negative press, not just about the president, but about Don Jr., about Eric, about Ivanka. There's a quote in the magazine from a source saying, Don Jr., he's miserable having his dad run the country. He can't wait for these 4 years to be over. And after the last 10 days, all this speculation about the Russia meeting, can't blame him.
But can you imagine? I mean, think about it, all of you. If you were a very wealthy family, the family business, you could basically do whatever you want. You could fly around in your plane, your private plane. Nobody asked you questions. Nobody dug into your personal business in your life. Why on earth would you ever want to be the president of the United States or the first family?
Or to be the first family, right.
That's why they're so bad at this.
Yes. Seriously.
They've lived in that bubble for so long, they're used to not being challenged, they're used to not being scrutinized, they're used to being able to do and say whatever they want because they were the boss. It was their company, it was their brand, and what they said goes, whether it was true or not. Well, now they're not in that situation.
Yeah. They didn't even have to report to shareholders.
Exactly.
It was a family business.
But it's been 6 months since Inauguration Day, and it's been 2 years since the campaign began. So at what point does the novice argument start to fade away?
Yeah, well, we shall see. You remember that Tina Fey, what she would say in 30 Rock, I want to go to there, I want to go back to there. I think that's what I want to go to there.